Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Love the North podcast. My name is Michael Richardson. I'm a local author of The Fall from Grace and Rain, Rain, Go Away, now available online anywhere you buy books. I'm here tonight joined again with my guest, Justin Gervais. We are here to discuss the birds and the bees. Well, maybe just the bees. It is the end of or nearing the end of the season for beekeeping. Winter is vastly approaching. We had discussed it a little bit on our first outing, and I said I wanted to circle back to see what the end of the season would be like. So now is a good time. You've got a few samples that you've brought with you that we'll get back to. We'll circle back to that. But first of all, how's all your livestock doing these days?
The livestock are doing good. The summer was a little bit weird with the dry summer that we had. Our June and beginning of July was really strong honey flow. It was a great temperatures, great like amount of rain, a lot of blooms. Then mid July to August, everything dried right up. The plant's nectar flow stopped, so the bees' honey production definitely like a tap just shut off.
Ooh.
And but because of the June July, things were good. And then now that it's getting cool, the last blooms of the goldenrod, which is their final kind of ditch effort at honey production, is happening now. But most people will take their supers off and give that goldenrod flow to the bees for the winter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So they get to keep their last meal.
yeah, they keep a stock up in their main brood boxes.
Now, because we're harvesting the honey, which is the bees' food source, and that's supposed to what keeps them through the winter, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
We take that off. How do the bees survive?
So a main hive has the lower brood box, an upper brood box, and then it has the supers, which is a smaller box, and that's what we put on for our honey harvesting. And then as they fill each box, you put another one, and then before you know it, that box is almost 6 feet tall.
Oh my.
And then when you take them away, those two brood boxes still have the honey that they're storing. It has their brood. It has the pollen. Anything else that they need is in there. And then they end the season. We take off all the supers. A lot of people will harvest what's in those boxes, and then the residual honey that's in those frames in those boxes, they give back to the bees. They'll go up, collect all that residue honey, bring it down, and then they end up going through the winter with what they've stocked up in those two boxes and what they've now collected at that last bit of the season.
So, do you supplement their food source to ensure their survival over the winter, or is that honey that they're left enough to get them through?
The honey that's in there should be enough for them, but being Northern Ontario, there is a lot of factors that take place that we choose to feed a sugar and water mixture, which is 2 parts sugar, 1 part water, and we put a jar at the top of the hive. That jar is kind of insulated along with the bees in there, so the jar stays warm with them, and they'll go up and grab the syrup whenever they need it. The bees kind of do a silly thing where they'll feed from the bottom and work their way up. And then once they get to the top, they won't go back down to feed more where they missed it. They'll starve at the top of the hive instead of going back down. So it's kind of interesting how they control the humidity, they control the carbon monoxide, or sorry, the CO2. They do all that inside. Uh, it's really interesting. They'll ventilate throughout the winter while they're in that ball, and they're creating that heat. But once they get to the top, at usually around the January February time, we have syrup up there for them. Some people will have like a fondant, kind of a sugar powdered sugar mixture
Okay.
up there on a kind of a pan. There's a few different ways of doing it. Some people will take two of the frames out, and it'll be just a giant kind of tub full of the syrup, and they'll feed from there. So there's a few different ways, but a lot of people don't open up all winter. Some people will close up their hives, give them the food that they think they need, and we'll go to Florida, and then they'll never see the bees till the spring. My wife and I check them every weekend.
Yeah. Now, when you say close up the hive, they're literally wrapped, are they
Yes.
not?
Yeah.
To insulate them against the elements.
Yeah.
So, and they still control the CO2 levels within that enclosed
Yeah.
environment.
Absolutely. So
Wow.
they'll ventilate and move the air however they need to. A lot of people panic and think the CO2, if the ice damming happens at the bottom of the hive, takes place, that they're struggling. So a lot of people don't have an open bottom, while we keep our screen bottom board completely open. So at the entrance where you see the bees fly in, underneath there, a lot of people have just a plank of wood. We have a screen there, and that's open to the elements year round.
Oh,
Yeah, the only time we use it is if we put a sticky board, which is just lard on a white board underneath, and then you count how many ticks, how many mites are on that board after a week or so. And after you treat them for mites, you count how many actually died off, and that's how you kind of control your mite load, because
okay.
they are a problem obviously for the bees. Um,
Is that like you treat for the mites through a medication?
yeah, so we use formic acid,
Okay.
which is technically natural. Ants produce formic acid, and for some reason, the mites that are on the larvae don't like that it's too strong. It's a strong enough acid to kill off mites, but not enough to cause any harm to bees or to affect the honey that may be producing in the hive,
Wow.
which is really cool.
And you just mist the inside of the hive with the formic acid? Or?
It's two patties that almost look. Some people make their own. Some people buy it. But you know the absorbent meat packs that are you get with your meat.
Okay.
Some people will buy the formic acid, put it on those, measure it to the amount that's needed, and we'll put that in the hive, and then it evaporates, and then the bees again ventilate it and move it through the whole hive,
Wow.
because they don't like. If you open up a pack of formic acid, it kind of stings your eyes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the bees don't like it. They'll ventilate, and then that's when it gets all around the frames, gets into the frames with the baby bees, and then the mites die off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
And the bees themselves, they bunch up into a ball, correct?
for winter. Yeah,
More or less to produce body heat, and they what rotate from the outside back in.
yeah. They take turns of who's on the outside. The queen's in the middle, and then that ball will kind of move its way through the hive. And I said it last time, but I'll repeat it again because it's a really cool mechanism. Is they'll actually disconnect their wings from the wing muscles and then just vibrate those muscles to create heat. So you have a balmy 30 degrees in a beehive during
Wow.
winter. Yeah,
Even with that bottom open to the
yeah,
elements year round. That's
yeah.
incredible.
Because the heat will rise, and again they'll ventilate all that CO2 down. All the cold air stays down, and at a point they have a certain amount of it that they kind of keep. There's a few researches happening right now about it, and I won't go too far into it. But apparently, CO2 just it's a they don't get rid of all of it. They'll maintain some of it, and it's all about humidity control
Wow.
and making sure that the inside of the hive doesn't get too wet, gets too moldy. So it's very interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
So kind of like a miniature ecosystem.
Oh yeah.
The amount of carbon dioxide can adjust the temperature inside that hive.
Yeah.
So
That's
kind
exactly
of
it.
like the Earth.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's very cool. So you did bring a few things, like I said. Let's switch over and talk about that. So first, obviously, is a jar of your honey.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
So natural honey, no matter what you do, you'll always eventually get a crystallization happening.
Okay.
As you can
Is
see
that what it
here.
looks a little?
Yeah. So the
Okay.
bottom here is crystallized. The top is still liquid honey. A warm bath on the stove will change that back to full liquid if you want. Crystallized honey you could spread over toast and all that. So not a bad way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the good stuff. That's what the bees spend their entire life producing.
And every region, more or less, is going to have a slightly different tasting
Absolutely.
honey because it all depends on the type of flowers that they're
Yeah.
utilizing at the time.
If you have a big enough operation and you harvest the honey throughout the summer, you could get something that's all wild, like lavender, goldenrod. If you're near canola, canola is actually really hard to pull out of the comb.
Oh,
It
really?
actually crystallizes almost immediately in the comb,
Oh, wow.
and it's a pain in the butt to get out. But it's definitely still a usable honey. But if you harvest enough and jar, like if I was harvesting this and it was at the beginning of the year, you'd have your basswood, you'd have uh, like your trees. All your trees have a certain amount of nectar and pollen coming off of when the leaves bud.
Right.
So you could have something that's just like not even a flower, but a tree's
Because I have to
Trees honey.
admit, I've always eaten store-bought honey all my life, pretty much, until I had tried yours. And the first sensation that went through my mind was I could taste flowers, as weird as that sounds. But it tastes like a wildflower smelt. And I always thought that was kind of weird. So it just made me wonder if would you get different flavors throughout the season because they're using different.
Absolutely.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Different areas and different, again, whatever's blooming. If that honey was harvested just for that bloom, it is essentially a lavender honey or a like I said, basswood or dandelions or like all the things that are blooming through. Everything blooms at different times, right? Clover, white clover and yellow clover bloom at different times. So it's really interesting. But I harvest all mine together at the end, so it'll be a full mixture of everything the summer had to offer. Yeah.
And it do they pass on any, like if they were using a plant that was poisonous to humans, would any of that end up in the honey?
I don't think so, but I know that there's honey out there that is considered like mad honey,
You
where
know, yeah, I was
yeah,
going to say, you know what I'm going for there.
that some plants the bees are harvesting in these regions pass on these. I'm not sure if it's hallucinogenic or just neurological effects from eating the honey, which is kind of wild.
I
Uh,
haven't tried that one yet either, but we've all heard about the mad honey
yeah,
that you can eat it and it will actually give you like
trip.
almost like a drug trip, yeah, if you will. But
Yeah,
that's all natural, or is that
that would be as natural as you can. That would be the most natural high I could think of. But
wow?
again, not saying
Is there,
anybody should be getting high.
is there anything these little livestock creatures can't do? Now you had touched the that other box when you talked about the comb. Is that what's in there?
That's a new experiment that we tried this year. We tried the Hodges half comb cassettes. What it is so a like I had mentioned earlier, super is a narrower box, and inside there these cassettes are all stacked 40, so 4 rows of 10,
Oh wow.
and then this lid here is actually not in there. So you have this fully empty, and because it's capped, like it's not going nowhere. It's like a blizzard. You could tip it upside down. Um, but what happens is they'll go into these areas. I believe when the cassette was brand new, it does have a small layer of wax at the base just to entice them, because bees don't like just plastic alone. It's hard to get them to commit to it.
I guess. Yeah.
But they'll go in and they build a comb like they would on a normal frame, except for when they're done, you just untape it all, take it separately, and then just put a lid on, and technically you could sell it like that.
Wow.
I found there were pros and cons to it. I find a couple of the cons is obviously it's plastic, so I find the edges get a little bit stressed and they crack, and maybe the lid won't sit perfectly on. And then when you're done, I kind of thought you could reuse it, but from the looks of it, it'd be kind of hard to clean this, like clean this all up.
Yeah.
As you can see, there's some burr comb at the top on the outside, but
I
again,
wonder
not a
what
bad
that
thing.
was.
Yeah. So as it's in there, the top was had nothing there, so they try to build comb between this and the next box of frames.
Wow.
Yeah, they'll if you take a frame out and you leave that box empty, they will fill it with like a madhouse of comb.
Wow.
Yeah, they've built. I've seen them where they'll build comb all nice and pretty on a frame, but then suddenly they go off and the frame doesn't get any honey or any comb, and all of a sudden it's built off the other one, so it suddenly starts coming up and over, and there's an underneath. They build a basement. There's like a condo on top. Like it's really
Wow.
crazy, and then that's what you call burr comb. You don't want them to go off what you've created as a pattern, because they love their hexagons, their patterns,
Okay.
but sometimes they go off the rails and they'll start building things like wild. Like
So everything other than the box is produced by the bees.
yeah,
So the honeycomb, I've actually eaten some of that, and it's very waxy. Tastes very good. I enjoy it. Some people spit it out. Um, how? Because the honey comes from their stomach, right? It's
yeah.
laughingly referred to as bee barf. Where does the wax come from?
So the wax is produced by consuming the honey. It takes 5 tablespoons of honey to produce 1 tablespoon of wax. that number should be pretty close, but I might be wrong. I do apologize to the club. But what they do is they'll ingest the honey, and when you look at a bee, you see the typical black and red segments on the abdomen. Out between those folds is where the wax actually secretes from. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So they'll slowly produce wax out through those little folds on their abdomen, and then they'll take it, and then they will build that hexagon.
Do they take it from those folds into their, like, how do they do that geometry from
That
their
is
abdomen?
purely them taking it and building it exactly like that form.
Like with their hands?
With their hands, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They're just doing it.
So they're peeling it off, and
Exactly.
that's awesome.
That is really cool architecture.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Now there's one last thing on the table.
Oh, I just brought the medal. Our honey last year won best honey of Sudbury from the Sudbury District Beekeepers Association.
Wow.
So it was a good honor. I hope more people join the contest, and then it becomes a little bit more competitive. But I'm very happy that we won that.
And it sure would be a shame to win again, wouldn't it?
No, there's no bad honey out there. I was actually part of the tasting team that judged, and it was a double blind. But the amount of it was my first time judging, and the amount of characteristics they go by clarity, they go by color, by taste, by the humidity level of the honey, and they go by how well the person jarred their honey. So the little jars, if you go too full, you lose points. Too empty, it was really interesting. Yeah,
That's very cool.
yeah.
What effect would excessive moisture do? Would it dilute it, like to the point where it wouldn't be as sweet?
Overly humid honey or too high of water content would eventually cause fermenting, which is kind of the byproduct of mead. Which
Right.
I don't know anybody who's made mead that's amazing, but I've tasted mead and it's not bad. But it's a very tough thing to make.
Really?
Yeah, because you think, oh, anything that tastes alcohol that tastes like honey, that must be great. No, it tastes like a bad IPA.
Yeah. Is there anybody in the Sudbury region in the club that produces mead?
Not to sell, but I know one beekeeper on the island has been making it, but uh, success has been hit and miss. And again, it's a tough recipe.
Wow.
Yeah,
From what I understand, it's the oldest recipe.
it would be.
That
Yeah,
is the oldest form of alcohol known to us, but
yeah.
and it has the same kick as anything else, but it's just very, very old.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why it fascinates me. How much longer until it's time to close off the hives and put them to bed?
So that really depends on the kind of summer and fall that we have. A lot of that's adapting on the beekeeper's end because right now there's still things blooming. There's still like 20-degree days.
True.
The nights aren't that cold yet. I think last night didn't even go below 16, which
Right.
was quite warm to sleep in. But when the time comes, when the temperature starts to really drop, that's when we'll do our final medications and then cover them up and then insulate the top and then put a jar for feeding. But again, not everybody does that. That's just something we do as kind of helicopter beekeepers. But it's nearly that time. We're getting close to it, and what we use is cozies. You could build your own with insulation, but we buy ours and it's pre-made. It's kind of an insulation between two layers of plastic, and then you just kind of slide it over them, and then that's it.
Does it look like it's kind of a dome kind of thing that goes over them? Is that
Sometimes they'll look very flat, but sometimes they might look like almost like a pillow
okay?
because they're very fluffy. They're very fat with air, and then that's what keeps them. That's what helps them stay warm.
Interesting.
Yeah, bee could technically they may be able to survive, but you'd be rolling the dice to say that they'd make it through the winter. Every advantage we could give them after all the work they did for us during the summer, we might as well
Take care of them.
take care of them for the winter. Yeah.
And speaking of taking care, you take care of the bees at Science North, correct?
I have hives with my wife at Science North, and my wife also manages the bee yard because she works at Science North, and she manages the I believe there's three Science North hives, and then there's the observation hive inside where people can see through a plastic plexiglass what the bees are doing on the frame, so you could watch them do waggle dances. You could see what the queen's doing while she's laying eggs. What the like all the things that the bees would do in a hive, you could see on this wall essentially.
It is quite a fascinating display.
Yeah.
I've seen that one. I like that one. But do you allow the public to watch when you're putting them to bed, if you will?
Absolutely. We actually had a couple of workshops where we would allow people into the yard with because Science North will supply suits
Oh,
to
wow.
bring the public into the yard,
Good.
show them how to smoke them, how to inspect them, putting supers. We actually had a honey tasting workshop too, where we had a fresh frame out of the hive on a stand, and we were letting people just scoop up essentially honeycomb like this
Wow.
and just eating it like that and tasting it. It was really
Do they
really
have
fun.
giant size bee suits there?
They have many sizes.
Do they?
Yeah.
Because I think I'd like to
Yeah,
come and see
absolutely.
that. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's nervous, oh, bees, I don't want to get stung. Justin is tremendously allergic to them,
Yes.
and yet he is still a beekeeper. Um, there are precautions that can be taken, and it can be a very safe and entertaining thing to get involved in. So if anybody's interested in it, it's also very important for our survival. So if you have any questions about beekeeping or anything like that, please visit Science North or get in touch with Justin with the bee club. It's
Yeah.
the
Sudbury and District Beekeepers Association, and we meet on the third Wednesday of every month at the Llewellyn Public School library.
Oh, very
Yeah.
cool.
There's snacks and coffee usually available.
And the leftovers come to work the next
They
day.
do.
So
Don't tell the
like
club.
So, is there any other pertinent information that I'm not smart enough to ask a question?
I think we covered a lot of the winterizing. We can touch base on medication. We talked about the fact that they're livestock, the fact that we treat them for mites. Uh,
You had mentioned the medication for the hives. How hard is that to come by? Do you have to have a special license or anything like that?
for the formic acid, you can get that from most beekeeper suppliers. You do need
Is there
your
one
Ontario
here in Sudbury?
license.
Sorry.
There isn't one in Sudbury. The closest supplier would be Innisfil Creek
Oh wow.
Honey, which is not too far. It'll be the Barrie area, and then Port Hope has Dancing Bee, which are really good with their shipping. So that's also a good option. You could technically go to Home Hardwares. They sometimes have suppliers like supplier products, and then obviously like Amazon stuff like that online. There's options
But
there.
you need to have um, some kind of credentials
To get the medication, yeah.
Really?
So you need a number which you then get from the Ontario government, essentially. It's very simple to go through. They don't really ask many questions, but with that number, you can get the formic acid pads from suppliers, and through them and a veterinarian, you can get the medication, which technically treats for European foul brood and American foul brood.
Mm.
And actually, one of our members this year experienced European foul brood, which is the lesser of the two. If you have American foul brood, and what that is, I'll touch base with what that is first. American foul brood is essentially a bacteria that is always in hives. Like there's always a certain level of fungus, bacteria in any hive. But if this hive is strong, they'll keep all that stuff at bay, just like our own immune system. But if the hive is weak for one reason or another, if the American foul brood bacteria gets strong, it'll affect the brood and actually turns them into brown goo.
Ooh.
It's a very strange. You'll have a weird. Most of the time, you'll have a really bad smell. If you do have American foul brood, you have to burn the entire hive. Your woodware, your equipment, everything that has been touching that hive needs to be burned. Like
Does that include the bees?
the bees, everything.
Oh.
It is the saddest. If you find out you have American foul brood, it is the worst thing that could happen to a beekeeper. That could be potentially thousands of dollars if depending on your yard, house size of your yard, all the woodware that you've collected over the years, and a lot of people do that as a hobby. So luckily, American foul brood hasn't happened in our area, but we did have a case of European foul brood, which you need to uh, eradicate the bees, but you don't need to burn the woodware. You would then torch. You would sear it like you would in the spring when you're cleaning and getting rid of any potential like molds, stuff like that. But you can recover a little bit easier from that one. But there is medication for that, but you have to see a vet for it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, before you used to be able to buy it, and I do understand why the government has restricted the use of that because it's an antibiotic,
Oh, okay.
and you used to need a couple teaspoons for your yard, but they'd sell it to you in a pack the size of a sugar, like a one like a 3 pound bag. So you would end up wasting it, or you would then say, "Well, I'll just reuse this bag next year." But now that antibiotic is weaker, potentially creating a resistance
Mm.
to the antibiotics, then causing potential bigger issues. So now it's prescribed by a vet. You get the amount you need for the amount of hives you have, and nothing more. So
Perfect.
I understand it. It's a pain. A lot of people get a little bit nervous and like, oh, I have to go see a vet. How much is it going to cost? Super low costs.
Oh, nice.
It's just a matter of finding a vet, which could be a vet who is going to talk to you about your bees.
They don't all.
No, they
Do
they
that?
don't understand. A lot of them don't understand the new rules.
Oh, okay.
So they're like, you have bees and you're coming to me for what?
For my livestock.
Yeah. Do you want me to bring my bees to you?
Let's bring them in for an office
Yeah,
visit.
yeah,
What are you gonna do about that?
yeah.
I'll keep them on their toes.
So that's another medication that not everybody does. But again, if cases like that are going to become more common, we don't want that to become a rampant
Absolutely.
concern. So,
But yeah, like you said, most of this is on the hobby level. Um, would you make enough from the sale of honey to cover your costs for the year?
I think you would. Yeah, I
Typically.
think for the most part, if you're not getting any bears in your yard to ruin it for you, and hopefully you put your honey supers on at the right time. A lot of people wait till July, and this year would have been a bad time to put in July because things started to dry up. Our supers were going on in May because
wow.
our bees were strong right out the gate. So we were able to get I think 6 7 supers
Wow.
that we still have to actually empty and harvest.
And
So
process. Wow.
yeah,
That's pretty cool. Well, I shouldn't say process. Sounds like you're doing something to it.
well
By
it's a couple
processing,
days
I mean
work.
you're putting it into jars, basically. It's
Yeah,
not like you're pasteurizing it or any of that stuff, which is awesome.
exactly. Yeah, which
Do you know when roughly you're planning on closing out the ones that?
if the ones at Science North get done without me because of hunting,
Right.
the ones at home, I would have you guys over
Yeah, for
there
sure.
and do them there because there's two there. The yard's pretty good size.
Borrow a suit from.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
we can make that work.
right on. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll do that. So I'm going to invite myself over to you. So I can't thank you enough for being here again. I find this topic fascinating. Again, eliminate all the humans from the world, and the world will be fine. Eliminate the bees, and the world dies. I've always found that fascinating, but I really would like to see maybe some of this process if you're up to it.
Absolutely.
When you're closing out the hive, I God forbid, I'm terrified of it, but I would love to join you. I mean, if you can do it and you're allergic, I'm sure I'll be fine. I would really like to see that process. If you'd have me, we could bring out a couple of cameras and
Yeah,
take some footage
absolutely.
and share that with all the viewers. Because
Yeah.
if anybody's watching this, they're obviously interested in bees and for good reason. So yeah, we'll aim to do that hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, Justin,
Thank you for having
joining me. And
Thank you.
if you want to just tell us one more time about the Bee Club and invite everybody to join in.
Yeah. So we meet on the third Wednesday of every month at the Llewellyn Library. Snacks and coffee supplied. A lot of information is being told in those meetings. We usually started off with uh, some really technical information for the long-term beekeepers, and then we get into the newbies information seminar, and we go through all kinds of stuff. We'll do show and tell, really cool stuff happening, and the membership is super cheap, and it's a lot of fun, and you
Nice.
get a lot of information, and everybody at the club is about beekeepers helping beekeepers, so nobody should feel nervous or afraid to come and check it out or ask questions. We love to talk bees.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of other tomfoolery that happens because I've already done that a few times myself tonight. So I really appreciate talking to you. I
Thank you very
appreciate your
much.
time and
Thank you.
thank you for joining us. My name is Mike Richardson. Again, I'm a local author. My books are available wherever you buy them online. Please check them out. And thank you very much for joining us this evening, and we'll see you again next time.